Welcome to Workforce Wednesday. So my name is Shayla Drake. I'm the Northeast Workforce Strategy Consultant for the Minnesota Department of Economic Development. We are very, very happy to have you here. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, thank you very, very, very much. If to kick things off, just welcome. We would love to have your information in the chat, where you're from, where you're, who you work for, what you do. Our team of consultants work regionally. You can see in the from our map, if you want to go to slide 2, Adeshewa. Perfect. Which means that we have a slightly different way that we do our work based on our region. But our employers that we're serving in those regions is very, very, the way we serve them is very, very similar. The common core ways that we support them and the way that we identify, the way that we support them is identified here. We work with you to identify gaps in your current strategies and ensure that you are connected with your local, regional, and state workforce partners. And we assist you in building strategies that will help you attract and retain your workforce. Next slide. As you will learn today, our consultation process is rooted and informed by data and is developed specifically with your company's needs and goals in mind. We serve as your guide throughout the process and convene workforce partners for support, share training grant opportunities, and continually check in to ensure progress is being made and assist in making adjustments along the way. When you work with us, you're automatically connected to a wide network of people and partners who work collaboratively for the success of our state, our regions, our communities, and so that your business and our workforce can thrive. We do not do this work alone. It takes many people to bring success to these efforts. Next slide. So you'll see that on this slide, we have our whole 2025 schedule in, and we're over halfway through the year. You spoke, we listened. So basically, you'll use the survey to continue to put in your input. We want to hear your input. So we'll get that link put in here shortly. But fill out the evaluation. It's very, very important because the topics are based on your feedback. As always, these webinars are recorded and available via YouTube, as well as on our Career Force website, where you'll also find the recordings in the archive and resources from these sessions. We'll be utilizing the chat feature to help continue to build the community and grow the community that we've already got going. So use it, use it, use it. Answer your questions. If you know the answer the question in there. We love to build that community. And now, without further ado, back to Adeshewa so we can get this rolling.
Okay, thank you again. So, take 2. Our apologies, everyone. The first time I started, we were at 70 or around 70 people in the audience. Now we're at 103. So it's continuing to climb. So maybe it's a good thing that we started over again. Once again, Adeshewa CG, Workforce Strategy Consultant. I cover the 7-county metro area and also Chisago and Isanti counties. So how you look at it, maybe the 9-county metro area. Today's topic is on workforce consultant strategies. Because I've covered a first couple of slides already, I'm going to try to go really quickly through those and then slow down for the new on the newer slides, or the ones we haven't covered yet. So the agenda for today, we'll talk about what is workforce consultancy. We'll talk also about strategic workforce planning, variations of workforce consultancy, preparing for a consultation, so tips for employers. We'll have a panel discussion with 4 wonderful panelists. Then we'll do takeaways, and then we will wrap up and have our unplug session. And that is where you, the audience, will be able to unplug or unmute your mics and ask either the panelists or the workforce strategy consultants questions pertaining to today's webinar topic. So going to this again, before starting into the topic or talking about the topic, I'd like to make sure that everyone has a common understanding of what the topic is about or what it means. So what exactly is workforce consultancy? So what this is it's a specialized service that helps organizations optimize their their workforce management practices. So it involves providing expert advice and strategic solutions to address issues related to the following key aspects: Professionals in this field, or called workforce consultants, will help businesses develop strategies for progressing the company and ensuring they attract the right people in the right roles at the right time. So you might hear that over and over again. It's attracting right people in the right roles at the right time. Workforce strategy consultations involve helping organizations analyze their current and future workforce needs. And that includes identifying talent gaps and developing strategies to ensure they have the right people with the right skills at the right time to achieve their business goals. So, uh, as I mentioned before, some of the aspects of workforce consultancy include strategic planning, talent acquisition and retention, talent training and development, performance management, regulatory compliance, and change management. This is not going to apply to all companies, meaning not every business is going to need to look at all six aspects, but these are some of the common aspects that employers dive more into when it comes to workforce consultancy. So a little more about strategic workforce planning. So once again, strategic workforce planning is a systematic approach to ensuring an organization has the right people with the right skills in the right roles at the right time. As I mentioned, you'll hear that phrase over and over and over again. And so it's to meet the current and future business needs. It also can include forecasting future workforce needs, identifying potential skill gaps, and developing strategies to address them, including talent acquisition, development, and retention. And so as we see, the chart that you can see, it shows six different aspects of strategic workforce planning. So that includes defining the operational and HR goals of the organization, collecting data related to external factors, collecting internal data, and defining operational needs, identifying the current workforce needs and forecasting the future demands, identifying any gaps. It could be skill gaps. It could be gaps with increasing awareness. It could be gaps with involvement with the community or with partners in the workforce development ecosystem, as I like to call it. And then last, creating strategies for retaining and attracting talent. And so one of the things that I'd like to mention is not all workforce consultations are going to be the same. One of the things about that I like about workforce consultancy and businesses actually working with someone that's from the outside looking in, you might not need to focus on all six. You might need to focus on two. You might need to just focus on identifying skills gaps. It might be, working on defining operational and HR goals of the organization. It might just go straight into creating strategies because the employer has done all the work and is able to provide, all of the data to the consultant before the meeting. So going straight into just developing strategies based on that information. Um, it doesn't matter if you're a small business, it doesn't matter if you're a larger business. Strategic workforce planning is important and it is crucial for all businesses across all industries, across all size, across all years of existence, if the goal is to attract and retain talent, and if the goal is also longevity and growing that business. Workforce planning is important. So a little more about strategic workforce planning. Once again, just looking at some of the aspects of it, finding those right people, finding those right skills, with strategic workforce planning, finding the right time, developing the right plan, and then looking at the right costs. So these are all of the things that, are important and employers should consider when a strategic workforce planning. So why is strategic workforce planning important? I mean, it's vital for businesses as it helps organizations, anticipate and prepare for future workforce needs. Also ensuring that they have the right skills and capacity to meet the evolving market demands. So that's very important. So some of the things of why workforce strategic planning is important: aligning workforce with your company goals, also enhancing agility and adaptability, improving operational efficiency and cost management, enhancing talent management and development, mitigating risk and ensuring sustainability, and then last but not least, improving employee engagement and retention. This is why strategic workforce planning is important and should also be something that is consistent. So your strategic planning, year one of your existence in the company might not align with what the goals are and where you're at in year five of existence in your company. So strategic workforce planning is constantly evolving, it's constantly changing, it's constantly adapting and looking at, okay, what are other ways that and other things that we can implement in the company to ensure that we get the right people in the right roles at the right time. So, as with all things workforce development, once again, one size does not fit all. Depending on your immediate and long-term needs and goals as a client or as an employer, the approach of workforce consultancy can look very different. And so now I'm going to be a little biased and talk about my team. So, D Workforce Strategy Consultants focus is on workforce consultancy. So, however, in our work, we incorporate other types of consulting under the umbrella of workforce consultancy. So, some of the types of workforce consultancy, as you can see, you have HR consulting, you have operations consulting, you have talent management consulting, workforce optimization, change management consulting, workplace consulting, and then employment consulting. So these are the different types of consultancy that an employer can look at. Our team as workforce strategy consultants, we address some, if not all, of these different types of consultancy, and it is based on the needs of the employer. So having, an active document can ensure that employers stick with the strategies recommended by their consultants. So one of the services as workforce strategy consultants that we provide is putting together what we call a consultation report. And so the consultation report is once again based on the conversations that we have with employers, what their short-term, long-term needs are, what type of workforce they're looking to attract. Is it more of entry level? If it's mid level, is it workers with higher, more specific individual skill sets? What is it? What are the needs of the employer? And then based on that, we put together a report where we share with the employer and that we use to move forward with that employer to make sure that they're achieving their goal. Now, our work, we base our work on the 5 pies or the diagram that you see to the right. So some of the topics that we discuss with our employers include recruiting and brand awareness. Do people know that you exist? Do your target audience know what you do? Looking at employee retention and career opportunities. It's important to retain your workers as well as attracting them. What do you have in place or what do you need to have in place to retain your workforce? Onboarding, training, and upskilling. So, how easy is it for someone, regardless of education attainment, work experience, overall, or work experience in that particular field? How easy is it for them to onboard and start working at your company? And are there opportunities to upskill once they become an incumbent worker? Diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility. I know that in today's climate, there are some words that seem to, not be words that people want to say or we're trying to, shoo away from. It doesn't take away from the fact that we are becoming more diverse. We're becoming diverse on a city level, county level, state level, county or country level, or nationwide. We're just becoming more diverse. So what are employers doing to attract talent from different talent pools, whether it be BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, or is it more of those non-traditional? So, for example, manufacturing. Are you reaching out to more women? Are you reaching out to veterans? Are you reaching out to second chance individuals, people that are returning into the workforce from being incarcerated? Are you reaching out to youth and young adults? Are you reaching out to mature workers? How are you reaching out to that? Diversity goes beyond BIPOC diversity. There's a lot of different groups that can fit into diversity. So how are employers accessing those talent pools? Last but not least, engaging community partners and stakeholders. It's very important to know who the partners are in the community, who are the workforce, or who are the community-based organizations, the philanthropic organizations, the education institutions, the workforce development board system, any other partners out here that can support the efforts that that employer has to reach their goals. So based on these five pieces of this pie, as I like to call it, we develop strategies, including recommendations for employers to implement and to move forward with, once again, with that goal of attracting, retaining talent, and growing, strengthening their workforce. So preparing for the consultation, how can employers prepare? I think one of the, I would say one of the things that employers don't do enough when working with a consultant, where it is, our team or a consultant from another company or independent consultant, is becoming or coming to the table prepared. I think a lot of times it's okay, I'm just going to sit back and you'll come up with all of these different strategies for me to implement. And that's really not the case. It's actually coming to the table prepared with information which will help that consultant develop strategies that hopefully you as the client would implement. So how can employers prepare for a consultation? Have a defined purpose and scope. Really know what you want. If your issue is recruiting talent, let that be known. If your issue is retaining talent, let that be known as well. If you have no problems recruiting, but you have issues retaining talent, then it helps the consultant look more at, okay, what are some of the things internally that are causing high turnover? If it is having trouble recruiting and finding people, but once we find them, they seem to be here for a long time. Okay, well, maybe looking at the candidate, the candidate application process, or is it, what methods you're using to recruit? It gives the consultant an opportunity to really take a step back and think about, okay, what is the actual specific issue with why you're not able to achieve your goal? Gathering necessary documentation. A lot of times employers still like to be a little secretive when talking to consultants. It's important to have transparency. It's important to, be truthful about any issues that you think your company is having with recruiting and retaining workforce talent. If the consultant that you're working with is professional, they're going to understand that what you're telling them, you're telling them you don't want them to share it with anyone else. There is that level of confidentiality between the consultant and you, the employer. So definitely gather the necessary documentation, being transparent, and really having that truthful conversation about why you're not able to either recruit or retain your workforce, and allow that consultant to be able to come up with some strategies that can potentially assist you in the short and long term. Really understanding the consultation process. Nothing happens overnight. That is one of the things that I like to mention to the clients and the employers that I work with. This is not a one time, one and done process. Sometimes this takes a while. It could be developing some strategies now that in a month, 2 months, 3 months might not align with the goals of that employer. So definitely understanding that the consultation process is a long process. Ensuring effective communication and preparation. That comes back to transparency, making sure that you as the employer are very transparent and that you're truthful and that you're coming to the table with actual intention. And you have those goals. You know exactly where you want your company to be in the short term, in the long term, and to share that with the consultant. And then once again, implement and evaluate. Be willing to implement ideas. Don't accept an idea from a consultant and think it's a great idea and not implement it, but expect positive results. The employer be willing to implement and evaluate any recommendations. Sometimes the recommendations can be what we call quick wins. It's something that we can recommend right on the spot or at the initial meeting. If that's something that you think will work for your company and will benefit the company, be willing to implement and also be willing to evaluate. Not all recommendations are going to have the outcome that you want right now or ever, but be willing to evaluate those recommendations and going back to the table with your consultant to keep modifying and upgrading and changing and adding recommendations to the report and just keeping, once again, the lines of communications and that transparency open. So those are some of the things that employers can do to prepare. It's better to come to the table prepared than not prepared. And it just makes the journey much easier when you come prepared and that you are transparent about what your needs are. All right, so with that, we are now going to go into our wonderful panel discussion. Before we do that, I would like to introduce the panelists. So as I call your name, if you just want to show your face and wave, that would be great. First, we have Angie Soderberg. She is the Senior Campus Recruiter and Diversity Outreach Specialist at Bar Engineering Company, which is a leading employee-owned engineering and environmental consulting firm headquartered here in Minneapolis. Bar Engineering has over 1,100 employees across 21 offices in the U.S. and Canada. So in her role, she focuses on building and maintaining relationships. Oops, sorry, I lost my count. Maintaining relationships with educators from K through 12 to higher education, as well with workforce development partners. So thank you very much, Angie, for being here. Next, we have Carly Cohn, who is the HR professional currently working in contract manufacturing and medical device industry at Lisi Medical. Lisi Medical manufactures surgical tools and implantable devices. She is the HR manager for 2 sites in Big Lake and in Coon Rapids, with about 350 employees total. So she has a BSB in HR from the University of Minnesota Carlson School of Management and a master's in HR management from St. Mary's University in Minnesota. She's been working in the HR field since 2001 in a variety of industries, including manufacturing, financial, and legal services. So she recently joined the Diversity in Manufacturing Initiative. Thank you once again for joining that. It's an initiative focusing on increasing opportunities for underrepresented talent pools in the manufacturing industry. She is married to a wonderful man named Steve and has a 5-year-old daughter named Sophie. So thank you so much. Next, we have Alejandra Lopez, who is the talent acquisition lead at Niagara Bottling. So with over 10 years of experience in talent acquisition, she spent the last 4 years specializing in high volume recruitment for blue collar positions. For the last 3 years, Alejandra has also led a team of recruiters driving strategic hiring initiatives and process improvements. Prior to this, she worked as a senior recruiter for a call center for 2 years and spent several years at a recruitment agency. So a lot of experience in recruiting. Thank you so much. And then last but not least, we have Christopher Campbell. He is the CEO of Simplify Automation. So, with a background in biomedical engineering and strategic leadership, Chris drives an innovative and market expansion at Simplify. As the CEO, he defines the company's vision, oversees product development, and has built a cohesive team to bring his vision to light. So, thank you so much. With that, let me stop sharing so we can just go into the the panel discussion. And so I would like to say that all of the panelists have went through the process of working with one of the workforce strategy consultants and actually has an active consultation report summary that they are consistently working on. So they're coming with that experience of working with a consultant. So thank you so much, panelists, for being a part of today's discussion. And with that, we'll go ahead and start. And I'll just have a list of questions. I think you've all received those questions. All right, sent those to you already. But I'll start with the group, and anyone can answer or go first and answer this question. What are some misconceptions about workforce consultancy that you had to encounter within your company when working with a workforce consultant? So with working with us, what are some misconceptions? I'm sure that you have shared with your colleagues that you were having a third party you're talking to a third party about your company's needs, sharing some of the innermost details about your company for them to come up with some strategies for you to possibly use. What are some of the pushback, misconceptions, some of the attitudes from people about that? And so with that, I'll let anyone go ahead and start, but all of you please answer.
I think that from our end, basically that a consultant is just for like a large scale problem, and that they are gonna come with like a fixed solution. But what we have seen with working with you guys is that you tailor each solution for us. So we're really grateful about that. So we haven't had any complaints about working with a consultant since we started working with you guys.
I think that's kind of the same misconception that we had at our organization, and kind of that maybe these consultants would just provide general advice and, that it wouldn't be specific to what your needs are. But really, as Adejewa was saying, if you're prepared, they send you kind of a template to fill out before you have your meeting. And so it prompts you of what information to provide. And that's really helpful to kind of target what areas you want to be working on. And the other one is that the process can be a little bit like overly, I don't know if bureaucratic is the term, but like time consuming, lots of paperwork. And I think they do a great job of helping you with some of that stuff to make it not so cumbersome.
Angie or Chris?
I could say for our company, we're a relatively small startup. So the question was, do we need this yet? And the takeaway was yes, having a strategy for growth at this stage is critical, because if we don't know where we're going, we don't have a strategy for that development and that refinement and that growth, then we'll never get there. So I think the initial impression was, is that something we need yet? Is that going to be a time sink? And I think we've successfully proven that no, this is something that we needed, and it helped us form a good basis for workforce development in the region.
Yeah, I would echo everything that everyone said. Coming from the field of consulting ourselves, we understand that value, the value of seeking feedback from others and to understand maybe, sometimes it's about how do you see the forest through the trees, right? So sometimes when you're deep in it, it can be hard to see those things. And so having that, that outside perspective can shed light, and I think it also can be validating as well, too.
All right. Thank you. So just kind of piggybacking on Alejandro, what you had mentioned, one of the things you said was coming with, a fake solution. I'm assuming maybe everyone except for Chris, Chris, you mentioned that your company is a startup, so it's a fairly new company. have you had experiences, and Chris, if you can answer, please do as well. But for the panelists, have you come across or have you had experience with consultants that offered fake or lackluster type of solutions? And if so, what can you provide an example? What was something that they recommended that you're like, okay, these people are they're not authentic, they're fake, they're just, yeah. So what were I guess what would be an example of, that kind of that fake solution that you've probably come across?
I think that for external consultants that aren't as solid as you guys, it's easier to just come with a solution that has worked in the past for another company and not being like specific with your needs. I mean, if this has worked before with, I don't know, a contact center, this will also work in manufacturing, and we obviously know that this won't happen. So basically, you can spot a fraudulent consultant just if they come with the same solution for everything.
Almost using like a cookie cutter.
That's right, yeah.
Cookie cutter.
Mm.
Okay. That's one of the, I think one of the challenges that we have as workforce strategy consultants, and for my counterparts in the audience, please nod if you agree with me, is our clients, and I like to call employers our clients, because I feel like when you look at them as a client and not just an employer, it's more of that like kind of that friendship development, relationship building type of terminology that you're using. But yeah, that cookie cutter, I think a lot of times that's the pushback that we get, that okay, here's another consultant that's going to give us something that we've already used, and they're not going to listen to what we're saying. And yeah, it worked for this this call center 5 years ago, so it's going to work for this manufacturer over here, and that's not necessarily the case. And so for everyone else that's had experience with other consultants in the past, did you feel that that was something that was happening, that it didn't seem authentic, the process didn't seem authentic, it seemed more of a cookie cutter? I'm going to give you something, just throw it at you, I'm going to in a way insult your intelligence, throw something at you that we've used for everyone else, and you'll go ahead and take it and run with it, and you'll be successful. Do you feel like you've experienced that in the past? I'm going to take silence as a no, which is good. Okay, so I'm going to take it as a no. Okay, well, let's go to the next question. So during the presentation, I had mentioned the 5 categories of the workforce strategy consultants, the 5 pies of pieces of that pie when we go into developing a consultation report. So just to remind people of what those 5 pies are, it's recruiting and brand awareness, employee retention and career opportunities, onboarding, training and upskilling, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and then engaging community partners and stakeholders. So as the employer, do you feel that there's any other focuses that are being overlooked and that consultants should consider outside of these 5 pies, or these 5 pieces of the pie? So once again, recruiting and brand awareness, employee retention, career opportunities, onboarding, training, and upskilling, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, engaging community partners and stakeholders. Is there anything else that you think, what, we would wish that, for not only for yourselves, but for other employers, if a consultant approaches them and wants to work with that employer, what are some other categories that consultants should consider or should have discussions with the employer about?
I mean, I was kind of thinking, I think that the 5 areas are really solid. I think they reflect mostly what we're working on. There's maybe a couple of opportunities. One of them I was thinking about was change management and how it impacts culture, because a lot of the things that are presented in the consultation report, go around with change. And so, our strategy is really kind of useless unless we manage how the people side of change. And so that was one area that I thought could maybe be added.
Anyone else?
I think that also adding, I mean, we're living in a pretty technological era, sorry. So adding these new technologies may be worth a try. I mean, everything is revolving about AI, so maybe just stepping into that will help a lot.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, Alejandra, because you'll be excited to learn about our next month topic. But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Awesome.
So for Chris and Angie, in technology, in case anyone wasn't able to answer or I didn't get an answer, I did have a list of possible ideas to throw out, and technology was actually one of them. So yes, definitely including maybe how to use more technology to increase retention or increase recruiting and retention of your workforce and just altogether. But I do like the change management. I think that's something that our team could probably go back and talk about, some food for thought, and just how to incorporate change management into that pie as well. So let me throw something else at you, and maybe, this is something that's not identified in that diagram, but something that has come up with some of the clients that we talked to, succession planning. Is that something that you feel like, you would want a consultant to assist you on? Do you think it's something that it makes sense to have a third party or someone from the outside provide recommendations and help you implement succession planning? Especially, I would say for the smaller businesses in the audience, where it's maybe a family-owned business and it's going from, a parent to a child. Or even in the larger businesses, if it's, a CEO is retiring and you're, the VP is, next in line, how is succession planning something that you would want consultants to include moving forward when talking with employers about, their companies? Does that make sense?
We're actually going through succession planning right now.
Okay.
But I can't speak on behalf of BAR because some of those processes are definitely done internally within our HR team as well as our management team and our board. However, I could see how um, that could be of an added value, depending on the size of the organization, their structure, and needing that support, because there is a lot to it. And so I would see no harm in offering that type of service. I think the one thing, that the consulting program does really well is that back to that tailoring, you have that ability to kind of, shall I say, pick and choose or a la carte or tailor to whatever your needs might be. So that's just from my perspective.
I think I was gonna mention succession planning as well. I think that's great that you mentioned it because we've been working on it for the last few years and we're finding it really goes in with like employee retention and career development because most people leave like the main reasons people leave are they A don't like their boss or B they don't see a room for growth. And so especially with organizations like ours where we don't have a lot of like layers because we're not that big. And so kind of like, a couple of you guys are mentioning your small organizations, you have to include succession planning in with your retention programs. And so I think maybe like adding it in with that section might be helpful because it is hard to kind of know where to start with that process, but it's really, identifying kind of where if you have a person that has potential, what are the gaps? What do they need to do to get to the next level? And kind of having a structured plan for that could be really helpful.
Any other thoughts before I go to the next question? All right. So I talked a little bit about how employers can prepare for consultations. And so once again, for some employers, they feel like consultations as I'm just going to sit back and the consultant's going to come up with all of these magical recommendations that are going to work. And I'm not going to have to put some skin in the game, as we call it, or help implement it, or, do some work after, after these recommendations are shared. Some of the things that I mentioned, transparency, being prepared, um, you know, being willing to have those conversations and be kind of vulnerable in a sense. Like if you know that your company is having an issue with recruiting or retaining, or if it's diversity, or if it's succession planning, or if it's workplace culture, it's just really being vulnerable and say, you know what, this is where we're having issues at. Because once again, a consultant, if they are professional, are going to keep that, as confidential information. We're not going to say, okay, and then run to, the rooftops and say, hey, guess what? Simplify Automation is having problems with retaining their workforce. Or, Bar Engineering can't find people because, we're not going to do that. So my question is, are there other ways that you think employers, as those, as the 4 panelists that have received consultation reports and have worked with our team, are there other ways that you think employers can be prepared before meeting with consultants? What other things can employers do to make sure that the process has the best results? It's a positive experience, but it produces the best results.
Just
What
just
can
like
you
you
do?
were saying, just be open and transparent about everything. Share the good things, the bad things, and the messy things. The more honest you are about the challenges that you're currently having, the more effectively that consultant can help. And I'm also thinking that involving the frontline managers early in the process, they are often the ones that are key to driving the culture and the operational change. So maybe just not stepping them all the way back, just involving them since day one also helps a lot.
I think kind of piggybacking on that, not assuming you know what your employees need and kind of like relying on your surveys and relying on the feedback from the employees. I think that's one of the big takeaways that we got from this process was not assuming we knew what people needed and actually asking, for feedback.
I think from our perspective, being a new company, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and we had a clear idea of what our objective was. But going into this, we found it very interactive, and the discussions kind of led to discoveries that allowed us to refine what we were looking for and how we view the process happening. But I think, yeah, being open and transparent, um, but going in prepared for us was more about just having a clear idea of what the end result is. How do we want to develop? Who do we want to attract? Who do we need to attract? And what do we want that culture to look like? So I think I found this process being very formative for us because we didn't have a ton of experience in HR. We're a small startup, like there are so many like us. And the information that we gathered from this helped us refine how we're viewing the workforce development process. So that alone, I was able to bring back ideas to the team that we hadn't really internally thought of yet. So I found it that we went in thinking we were prepared, but we found that we weren't quite because there was a lot of things that we hadn't really hashed through and refined yet. But this process, having that document in particular, allowed me to go back to the team and say, okay, here's a strategy that we knew we needed employees. We knew that there's places to go find them, but connecting the dots was something that was missing. And I think this was extremely helpful in connecting the dots and giving us actionable strategy that not only had what to do, but also had where to go to do it, who to contact, who to talk with, who to partner with. So I think I found it to be as prepared as I wanted to be going in. I also found that there were some things in that discovery that we just didn't know. So that was my experience.
I would echo that as well. You can always come into a topic with an idea or agenda or some thoughts behind it, but just being open to ideas and connections really matters. I think too, like, I don't want to sound cheesy, but Adeshewa and Shayla are, I view them as external colleagues, but I also view them as friends, meaning like people that you can, trusted allies that can help you answer questions and get connected with others. And so you similarly, like, you may have a thought or idea of how it might go, but you might take a different path. And through our work, we've been able to really grow and develop our K-12 outreach. And that's something that continues to get refined and developed. And it's more a journey, is really what I want to point out. So, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, this is great. Awesome. So I have two questions. I know we have 5 minutes left, so I have two questions for everyone. So the first one is, and I actually, what is the one piece of advice you have for those employers in the audience that are on the fence with reaching out to and working with a consultant, where it be our team or an independent consultant or a consultant in another company? What's the one piece of advice that you would give to someone on an employer on the fence?
Just to be open to the opportunity, maybe just start small. You don't need to like commit to a massive engagement right away. Just like a little focus project with some clear goals can help you get some perspective of what you need, and maybe keep working with the consultant if it's good since day one.
I mean, that's my advice too. Just do it. I think we all have an hour to spare. And I think, the one conversation that we started with uncovered so many things that I didn't know existed, that I would just say, just don't be afraid to do it. It's free.
Yeah,
I would
oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, you go, Chris. You go, Chris.
Well, I would echo that the process wasn't a time sink. It wasn't super time consuming. It was actually relatively quick. And at the end, we left with a roadmap. We left with a clear map. And if you wouldn't go on a trip without that map, and every business is a trip. So for me, to having that very clear executable roadmap for us was extremely important. And it didn't take us a long amount of time to get there. We went in with what we knew we needed. We went through the whole process, we refined it, and I think at the end we left with something that gives us a clear path to the goal we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, everything that everyone said, for sure. I would say that there's a lot of information, resources, and connections that you can develop through that one engagement. And, and not only that, it's reciprocated back to the workforce partners, because you open doors to other connections that also are potentially helpful for them in their jobs, and especially if they're working directly with job seekers. And so just recognizing that that relationship can go both ways, and that's really important.
Okay, well, here is the last question. So since all of you have worked with our team, either me individually or me and one of my counterparts, can we expect a follow-up and continue working with you guys? So we reach out, we're not going to be ghosted. Is that going to be, that was my question. Do you promise to respond when we follow up with you and say, hey, we want to continue working with you? I like to end on a funny note, so. Do I have that guarantee from everyone that we're going to continue
Of
working?
course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We're here, right?
All right. All right. So with that, I think that we are at the end. Let me go ahead and reshare the slide deck really quick. And if you give me a quick second, never can do this right away or smoothly. So here are some takeaways. There's no one size fits all when it comes to workforce consultancy. Strategic workforce planning is vital and important for businesses because it helps organizations, anticipate for their future workforce needs. The 5 focuses of strategic workforce planning, right people, right skills, right time, right plan, right cost. So I had mentioned that a couple of times. It's just the right. It's when it needs to be done, finding that, when it needs to be done, it needs to be done. Having a physical living document can ensure employers stay on track. It's important to have something to refer back to as you're moving forward with a consultant. And then failing to prepare equals prepare to fail. So making sure that you come prepared as possible and being transparent and open about your needs and what you're looking for and why and how you want that consultant to help you. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to my wonderful counterparts, Miss Becky and Miss Della, who will talk about next month's Workforce Wednesday webinar topic. So Becky, take it away.
All right. Well, that was certainly some really great information that we learned today. Big thank you again to all our panelists for sharing their insights. As always, we appreciate your feedback, so please take a moment to complete the brief survey to help us continue providing relevant content and improving these sessions. For those who are registered, the recording and related resources will be sent out soon. And a quick preview, registration is now open for next month's Workforce Wednesday. Introduction to AI for Employers, what it is, how it works, and why it matters. I'm especially excited for this one, not only because AI is a hot topic that I'm passionate about, but because it'll be my first time leading a Workforce Wednesday. And so we have some really great speakers lined up who will cover AI basics, labor market trends, and how employers are already putting AI to work. So you won't want to miss that one. The registration link is in the chat and on the Workforce Wednesday page at careerforce.mn.gov. We do have a new website. So just note that, careerforce.mn.gov. And there you can explore past and upcoming topics, connect with your workforce strategy consultant, sign up for reminders and our newsletter, and mark your calendars. So it's Wednesday, July 9th. So typically it's the first Wednesday, but for the holiday, it will be the second Wednesday. So Wednesday, July 9th. Next slide. So finally, feel free to reach out your workforce strategy consultant if you have any questions or would like to explore the consultation opportunities that we've been talking about today. At this point, we'll stop the recording and open up our unplugged session. You're welcome to unmute and turn on your cameras to join the conversation. Thank you again. Just give us a moment to